Grayson Chrisley rebelling against sister Savannah. Grayson Chrisley is nearing the age where college admission looms, but his sister, Savannah, has different ideas. So the Chrisley knows best alum seems to be rebelling. His parents, Todd and Julie Chrisley, are in federal prisons for fraud and tax-related offenses, so their daughter, 26, is his guardian. Grayson Chrisley had no provision made for college. Savannah Chrisley is disagreeing with her younger brother over his future. He recently attended his prom, and he is thinking about his higher education in 2025. Of course, it makes sense that he looks outside of the family's now limited income for his future. She talked about how she didn't want to subsidize his partying. In her opinion, he's simply not mature enough. Plus, it seems that his parents made no provision for his college education. Grayson Chrisley's not a baby anymore, but his life changed instantly when his parents ended up in prison. As the youngest boy, he probably knew little about his father's business deals. Being on reality TV most of his life, perhaps he has different ideas from his sister, who wants to get the family into more shows. Additionally, she claimed that he was lazy. Savannah Chrisley argues over college. After Todd and Julie's recent appeal, the news arrived that their youngest son felt traumatized. Now he seems to want to just get into doing what other young people do. He wants to go to college, but his sister has many objections. On her recent Unlocked podcast, Savannah Chrisley seemed annoyed because she couldn't get him out of bed in the mornings. Plus, she claimed, "You want to go so you can go to football games, and so you can party." Grayson Chrisley planned his future. He said, on Reddit, Chrisley Knows Best fans who discussed Grayson Chrisley clashing with his sister felt he should go to community college. Here are some of those comments. "You still have to pay back loans, but you learn by your mistakes." She can't see that she's part of the reason why he wants to run away. Grayson needs to get away from this dumpster fire of a family. Sassy is a control freak like her parents. Sassy knows nothing about being financially independent from her locked-up parents either. Grayson should go ahead and secure student loans and go to college. If he doesn't finish and is left with huge loans he's forced to pay, he may wake up and grow up to be a decent human. Decent humans in that family are few and far between. Sure, he can get a student loan and maybe try for a Pell Grant. Maybe he should try community college first and then transfer. Grayson Chrisley had always been the baby of the family. With his charm, mischievous grin, and easygoing nature, he was often viewed as the little prince in the Chrisley household. But now, at 16, Grayson was no longer the wide-eyed boy everyone coddled and adored. The years had changed him, turning him into a tall, lanky teenager with opinions of his own. And one of those opinions was that he had had enough of his older sister, Savannah, trying to control his life. It had been brewing for months, a storm Grayson didn't know was inside of him until it came roaring to the surface one fateful evening. The Chrisley family, known for their tight-knit bond and playful banter, was beginning to fracture. Grayson felt suffocated, as though every decision he made was scrutinized. And Savannah, now in her mid-20s, seemed to think it was her responsibility to monitor every aspect of his life. "Grayson, where are you going?" Savannah's voice pierced through the calm of the evening as she stood in the doorway, her arms crossed. Grayson had his car keys in hand, ready to head out for the night. He rolled his eyes. "Out." "Out where?" Savannah demanded, her brow furrowing. "You know Dad and Mom want to know where you're going, and it's getting late. You have homework and—" Grayson cut her off, his temper flaring. "Savannah, I'm not a kid anymore. I don't need you babysitting me." Her eyes widened in shock, and for a moment, she was speechless. Grayson had always been the mild-mannered, sweet brother who never raised his voice. But there was something different now, an edge to his words, a rebellion in his eyes that Savannah hadn't seen before. "I'm not babysitting you, Grayson. I'm looking out for you," she said, softening her tone, but the authoritative edge remained. "You're still in high school, and you have responsibilities." He scoffed, shaking his head. "Yeah, well, I'm tired of you acting like you're my second mom. You're not." Savannah's lips tightened, her eyes flashing with frustration. She had taken on the role of protector ever since their parents' legal troubles escalated. It wasn't just about being the older sister anymore. She felt a responsibility to keep the family intact, to make sure Grayson didn't stray off course like so many teenagers. But what Savannah couldn't see was that her overprotectiveness was pushing him further away. "You don't understand, Grayson. This family has been through a lot, and I'm just trying to keep things together." "Yeah, well, maybe I don't need you to keep things together for me." Grayson shot back, his voice rising. "I've been dealing with this stuff, too. You're not the only one who's had to grow up fast." The tension between them was thick, almost suffocating. Savannah opened her mouth to respond, but Grayson didn't give her the chance. He stormed past her, slamming the front door behind him as he left the house. Grayson drove aimlessly for a while, his mind racing. He didn't know exactly where he was going, but he needed to get away. From the house, from the suffocating pressure, from Savannah's constant nagging. For once, he wanted to breathe. His life had been consumed by the chaos surrounding their family for too long. The cameras, the legal battles, the public scrutiny, it all weighed heavily on him, even if he didn't show it. After a while, Grayson found himself parked at a small, quiet park on the outskirts of town. The air was cool, and the sound of crickets filled the night. He sat on a bench, his hands in his pockets, staring up at the stars. This was the only place where he felt he could think clearly, away from the noise of his family's drama. A few minutes later, his phone buzzed. It was Savannah. He ignored it. Another buzz, another message from her. He clenched his jaw, feeling a fresh wave of frustration. Why couldn't she just leave him alone? But deep down, Grayson knew it wasn't just about Savannah. His anger was about more than her overbearing behavior. It was about everything. The expectations, the judgment from the public, the pressure to be perfect in front of the cameras. It was about feeling like no matter what he did, someone was always watching, waiting for him to mess up. Suddenly, the sound of tires on gravel caught his attention. He looked up to see Savannah's car pulling into the park's lot. Grayson groaned inwardly. She followed him. Savannah got out of the car and walked over to where he sat, her face etched with concern. She didn't say anything at first, just sat down next to him on the bench. The silence between them was thick, but this time it wasn't angry. It was tense with unspoken words. "I'm sorry," Savannah finally said, breaking the silence. "I didn't mean to push you. I don't want you to feel like you're alone in all this." Grayson didn't respond right away. He stared at the ground, his jaw tight. "I know it feels like I'm being controlling, but it's not because I don't trust you," she continued. "It's because I care. This whole thing with the family, it's messed all of us up. And I guess I'm just scared of losing you too." Grayson sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I get it, Savannah. I do. But I'm not a kid anymore. You can't keep treating me like one." "I know," she admitted, her voice soft. "It's just hard to let go. You'll always be my baby brother, no matter how old you are." They sat there in the quiet for a while, the tension between them slowly dissipating. Grayson's anger had cooled, replaced by a mix of guilt and understanding. He knew Savannah's heart was in the right place, even if her methods drove him crazy. "I just want to make my own choices," Grayson finally said, his voice quieter now. I don't want to feel like I'm living under a microscope all the time." Savannah nodded. "I get that. I'll try to back off. But promise me one thing." Grayson raised an eyebrow. "What?" "Just keep talking to me. Don't shut me out." A small smile tugged at the corner of Grayson's mouth. "Deal." For the first time in what felt like forever, they both felt a sense of relief. It wasn't perfect, and they still had a long way to go in figuring out their new dynamic. But for now, sitting together under the stars, the rebellion between brother and sister had found a truce.